Okay, so today I am coming at you with some LGBTIQ plus book recommendations. Yes, LGBTIQ plus representation in books as well as LGBTIQ plus genred books means a lot to me on this channel. And I know that a lot of you guys have been talking to me recently about recommendations and where I think you should start and where I think you should go from there, so I thought I'd do a video about it. Before I get the recommendations underway, a couple of things that I do want to say. Some of these books are own voices, as in the authors themselves of the LGBTIQ plus community. Others, the authors are not, so do keep that in mind. And also these recommendations are own voice recommendations because I grew up as a gay man, I'm now a gay adult, so you're in good hands here. I'm not going to just chuck something at you without preparing you for it. We're going to start with an entry point. Let's just say you've never read LGBTIQ plus books before, or you just want a light LGBTIQ plus read. So where would I recommend that you turn? Date Me, Bryson Keller by Kevin Van Wy. The reason why I say that it's good to start with this book is because this is just a nice, sweet, beautiful book. We are following a man or a teenager by the name of Kai. The book opens up at a party that is held right before the beginning of the year for these high school students, and the most popular guy in Kai's year level is dared by his jock buddies to date anyone that asks him. As a joke, Kai asks him, and Bryson Keller, who is the guy that's dared, said, "Okay, you asked me? Why not?" And so they start dating. It really is that simple, but at the same time, it really is just that beautiful. Want something a little bit more to it, maybe just a little more bite, not too much, but a tiny bit more, then I would recommend Phil Stamper's debut book, which is The Gravity of Us. We are following a boy by the name of Cal. His father is also named Cal, so to differentiate, we have Cal Jr., our protagonist, and his father, Cal Sr. Cal Sr. is offered a role to work with NASA, so the family has to pack up and move interstate. While Cal Sr. is training at this NASA camp, Cal Jr. meets a boy and they explore their feelings for each other. I'm not going to say that it's anything too jarring or anything too triggering, but Phil Stamper does explore some things that can come up, so if you want a little more bite to begin your LGBTIQ plus reads, then I would go with this one. Maybe you've already read some LGBTIQ plus books, or maybe you're looking for something that's a little more hard-hitting than those. Well, I'm going to call these my Tier 2 section books. So not the place necessarily to start, but if you're ready to dive into some other things, a step up from those ones, that's where we're at now. Love, Simon by Becky Albertalli, Phil Stamper's second book, As Far As You'll Take Me, and Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Love, Simon. The reason why I don't suggest that you read Love, Simon as your first LGBTIQ plus book, while a lot of other people will, and I can understand why they might, is because this book takes a very heavy-handed approach to what I guess we could call the coming out trope. So we have Simon who, amongst other things, I don't want to spoil too much, but amongst other things, is looking to come out, but he's kind of scared to come out. What I will say is Simon does eventually come out in this book, and the way that his coming out is received is very human. And I very much appreciated that. We get different types of reactions and not just the fairy tale, everyone's happy, happy, joy, joy. Some people are very happy, some people are nice about it, but they're not necessarily happy. Some people are scared for him, and some people are just downright really angry that this situation is occurring, and then there are others who are in denial. So it can be a bit of a triggering read if you are looking to come out, or if you were affected by your own coming out story. As Far As You'll Take Me by Phil Stamper is Phil Stamper's second novel. So his first one was in my beginners section, this one, The Gravity of Us. There is a massive difference between the two, and there's a reason why this one is a Tier 2, where this one's a Tier 1, an entry point. The reason for that is because we deal with, again, some very tough contemporary topics. I'm going to tell you what they are to assist you to see if this is the type of read for you. One of the toughest things for me to read about with this book is the topic of bulimia, as well as the topic of anorexia. This was very well done by Phil Stamper. In case you're wondering, this is Own Voices. Phil Stamper is a gay man, so I do appreciate that he's writing what he knows. But anorexia and bulimia, they are very big topics just in general anyway, but they're certainly very big topics in the LGBTIQ plus community, and I appreciated that Phil Stamper put a magnifying glass onto these issues, but he did it in a pretty raw way, so be ready for that when you do go in. Red Wine Royal Blue. So we are following two guys in this book. We follow the son of the first female president and a man who is in line to be prince one day. They are both from different countries, they both come from different cultures and backgrounds, but they both end up falling in love with each other, and ultimately they both know that if either of them were to either come out or be found out for who they are, that it could cause disastrous, chaotic results, not only for them but for their family, because each of them is very much thrust into the public eye. Of course it's going to happen, and it does. They both do get discovered. And the way that this is handled, Casey McQuiston did just as good a job as Becky Albertalli in the fact that she kept it very, very human. There are very polarizing views of these two guys coming out, as just like with Love, Simon, we have those who accept it immediately, those who are happy about it, those who are downright angry and bitter and refusing to allow them to do this. So again, this is why these are tier 2 books. So do keep that in mind with these 3. Moving on now to my tier 3 books. So this is more of a step up from that rawness and that realness of tier 2. There are hard-hitting contemporary topics that occur in these books, but I feel like they are to a more severe degree, and that's why they are in my tier 3 section. So we have 2 books, which are both by Adam Silvera, History is All You Left Me, and they both die at the end. So a great lesson to learn: just because an LGBTIQ plus book is a YA does not mean it's not going to be hard-hitting, and does not mean that it's not necessarily going to trigger you. And Adam Silvera definitely proves that with both of these books. So we'll start off with History is All You Left Me. This is the first Adam Silvera book that I read. So this book follows Griffin and Theo, who are helping each other through grief and loss. So basically, Griffin was dating a guy, but his family moved interstate, and Griffin decided that he loved this guy he was dating so much enough to let him go and be free and to feel free to date once he moves interstate. So his then ex does. He dates a guy and then he dies. So Griffin really struggles with the fact that he's not going to see the love of his life anymore, because I guess he always figured that one day this guy will come back, and now obviously that's clearly not going to happen. And someone who's also struggling is Theo, who was Griffin's ex's new boyfriend, or boyfriend at the time, when this guy dies. So anyway, that sounded a bit convoluted. Let's keep moving forward. So this book eventually explores Griffin and Theo assisting each other through the grief and loss of this guy. What makes this a tier 3 book is that there is no pretty little bow, nice picture ending to this book. And you know what? I think that was absolutely the right way for Adam Silvera to go, because had there been a nice pretty little bow wrapping up the book, it would have felt like a cheap ending. Adam Silvera, with his own books, his own LGBTIQ plus books, I need to differentiate here. Adam Silvera writes LGBTIQ plus books on his own and with others, and he writes fantasy books. So Adam Silvera's own LGBTIQ plus books, they all have hard-hitting contemporary topics in common. And History is All You Left Me, the grief and the loss is very raw and very real, and their ending is pretty interesting. I absolutely do recommend going into this book when you're ready for it. It's like Phil Stamper, its Own Voices. Here's a gay guy born and raised in the Bronx, so yeah, Own Voices. Great book, but definitely tier 3. They both die at the end. We are following, it's a dual perspective, we follow two guys, and the first perspective we follow in the very first chapter, he receives a phone call from a company called Deathcast, letting him know that he is going to die at some point that day. In this world, Deathcast is a company that exists that not only can predict, but actually knows when you're going to die. So everyone's expecting that call from Deathcast to occur one day, and when it does, they know this is the truth, it's going to happen. So we follow these two guys who both don't know each other. They've both been called to be told that they're going to die somewhere within the next 24 hours. I'm sure you can imagine a lot of feels go on in this book when you're living your last day. It's not right, it's not fair, but we have to deal with it anyway. This is why this book comes in as a tier 3. Okay, so now we're getting on to the tier 4 stuff. This stuff is, if you want to jump right into the deep end, you've never read an LGBTIQ plus book before, and you just want to dive out of that plane without a parachute, this is where you begin. If you want to be more conservative, I recommend working your way up through the tier levels. If you are someone who has read from a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3, and you're looking for a tier 4 type book, then this is what I would recommend. Again, we're going to start with Adam Silvera, his third and final book I'm going to show you guys in this video, which is More Happy Than Not. Okay. So I was telling you guys earlier that just because an LGBTIQ plus is a YA book doesn't mean it's going to be an easy read. Very, very, very big, case in point example, More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. Okay, I was talking to you earlier about With History Is All You Left Me, how Adam Silvera didn't tie this book up in a nice pretty ribbon and have a nice beautiful image picture at the end. Yeah, okay, he definitely doesn't do that with this book. This book left me gasping. It literally did. It ends in a way that, to me, was incredibly horrific, and it took me a little bit of time to get over the ending. We are following a guy who is gay, he is closeted, he lives in the Bronx, and in this world, in the Bronx, that is not only not accepted, but if you come out, you may not live to tell the tale. So we're already jumping into a very terrifying situation in this book where this guy knows if anyone finds out that he probably gonna die. It's full on. I found this book to be incredibly full on. I wouldn't personally market it as YA because I just don't know. I feel like there are some teenagers out there that probably shouldn't read this until they're adults. But anyway, so go into this book knowing it's a tier 4 read, in my tiers, and be ready for it. Our first adult book, His First Family by Victoria Sue. So, part of the reason why this book makes it into the tier 4 section is because it is an adult LGBTIQ plus book, and as you would expect with any type of an adult book, there would be adult themes, so be mindful of that. One thing that I found very special about the first 2 books in this series is that Victoria Sue puts you into a world where certain men, not all men, sorry, certain men can get pregnant. One thing I need to warn you about with both of the books in this series, His First Christmas and His First Family, is abuse, domestic abuse, and because it's an adult book, Victoria Sue does not have to shy away, and she doesn't. It can be extremely triggering. It is a very cold, harsh, hard read at times, so do be mindful of that. So multiple reasons why this is a tier 4, and finally, my final tier 4 book. So it's like way up there. Only read it if you're absolutely prepared to deal with everything that goes on in this book. Would have to go to Captive Prince by C.S. Picard. There is, again, abuse that occurs in this book, and to me, Okay, this was an incredibly hard read for me. We follow a prince whose father, the king, ends up trading him, selling him to a prince in another castle as his, wait for it, sex slave. And this prince is the prince who purchases this prince is extremely selfish, extremely greedy, extremely violent. This was a whoa book. Like, I get that it's adult, and I get that you should expect anything with adult books because you can go there. It's 18 plus. You can do whatever you want, and that's fine. And well done, C.S. Picard. But I did not expect it to be as abusive as it was. So not only is there physical abuse, there's physical assault, there is sexual abuse. So on the physical side, we have both of those. We also have psychological abuse, mental abuse, and more and more and more and more. So please do not go into this book thinking it's going to be a light-hearted read. Please know that unless you are used to books that have the assault, type trope that can be extremely graphic and extremely overwhelming, unless you're prepared for something like that, just know that this is going to be a tough read. So I hope that that helped you with any LGBTIQ plus recommendations. As I said, it does mean a lot to me representing these types of books on my channel. But now for a game that everyone seems to love that's really hard to do, so we'll try, called Up, 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 Up. These are the LGBTIQ plus books that I recommend. So, that is where I am going to leave it, letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading!